Today we shift the conversation to youth, creatives and innovation.
The beginning of the end of Afreximbank's 31st annual meetings started with a feminine bang. In a discussion titled Women as Champions of Afro-Caribbean Trade, a decorated panel of powerhouses shared their wisdom and advice.
Gender imbalances have kept women from fully benefiting from their presence in the business space. But Ibukun Awoshika believes focus should shift from looking at the matter as a gender problem, but rather a business one.
Whether Africa or the Caribbeans, population is at least 50% of women. There are many Caribbean states that have more women than men. And if you bring all that together, it's a business issue. It's not a gender issue. For us to maximize more than 50% of our population, to provide an infrastructure and a system and policies that helps us to harness the gift and the talents of such a huge portion of what our population is.
The handshakes, meetings and commitments continued, with First Bank of Nigeria securing a $200 million facility from Afreximbank to meet the needs of its customers.
And Nigeria's Minister for Industry, Trade and Investment penned 2 deals, including a focus on cotton and textiles.
This is supposed to transform the cotton, textile and garment industry. We used to have a very vibrant cotton, textile, garment industry previously, and we've seen what's happened to that industry. So this deal is approximately $3.5 billion and is going to go into the entire value chain, the full value chain, across the cotton development states. So we have identified some states that will start with the pilot, and we will work with them to start with the farming of cotton, seed production, seed distribution, to the development of the cotton itself, the ginning, textile and then apparel, and with a view to actually then exporting Nigeria's own cotton or own fabric. So there's also the component of adding polyester and wool to enrich the fabric. So all of this is part of the whole textile value chain, and we will finally bring in the leather industry, because they are also, so the theme of this particular deal is farm to fashion. Yeah, so we produce the best leather in the world. So now we can now attract those industries that buy this leather to situate within Nigeria, and then we can now catalyze that industry.
Nigeria's federal government showed its satisfaction with the prospect of intra-Africa and Caribbean trade.
World's financial system is changing. Globalization is receding, and we have what they call deglobalization now, where regional financial markets are becoming more and more important. Of course, we're here in the Caribbean, and we know that under the leadership of Professor Benedict Orama, Afreximbank has reached out and brought in the Caribbean. It's all part of the African diaspora, and it's an important agglomeration that we get together. We depend on our own resources, we finance each other, we support each other at a time when the Western world has relatively high interest rates, and also they are going through their own fight against inflation. So it is critically important that organizations such as Afreximbank and other regional organizations come to the table and provide more development financing for Africa and indeed the African diaspora, which is basically every black person in the world.
My primary purpose being here as a member of the Trade and Investment Committee at the Senate level, this is one of the burning issues, how to increase trade, international trade in Nigeria. What we need to do as a Senate in terms of laws, ease of doing business, how do we partner with the executive to ensure that we can attract as much or as many investors into the country, and not just attract them, but retain them and get them to increase their footprint in terms of capital deployed or investments in Nigeria.
We know that Afrexim is doing so much in funding so many projects across Africa, and there is no way the Niger Delta will lose out of it. So we are here to represent the Niger Delta people to ensure that whatever Africa is benefiting, let Niger Delta also benefit. We have lots of projects in the Niger Delta being funded by the NDDC. Most of them are being stalled due to funding. So we're also looking at ways and means of how we can also collaborate with Afrexim to ensure that funds are provided for these projects to be completed to serve the people of the Niger Delta.
The private sector too were aptly represented, with prospects for investment whetting the appetite of business leaders.
I have seen studies of the investment opportunities in the Caribbean, and I've received presentations on specifically banking, and I know what the potential is. But having spent 2 or 3 days speaking to heads of state of the region, central bankers, most importantly, I think the banking public, the extent of the opportunity here is quite amazing.
The first step is what has occurred is the bank coming in here, and this is rare for an African institution to lay the groundwork in advance of the private sector to follow through. Normally it's the reverse. Trade is ahead of diplomacy. This time around, diplomacy is ahead of trade.
Suriname's president sought to make sure attendees know the South American country, rich in natural resources, is open for business.
My country, Suriname, has a lot of opportunities. Guyana has a lot of opportunities in the mining sector. We can get a lot of wisdom, technical assistance, but also capacity. Suriname, my country, is comprising of 600,000 people on a territory of 120,000 square kilometers and a maritime zone larger than the continental area. So here's the opportunity to get that assistance from the African country. But there are conditions. One of the things is you need connectivity. And the connectivity within the Caribbean is a challenge.
Yes, sir.
But you have opportunities there in Africa. You have airline companies. I have seen business people coming to Suriname for the first time after so many years. They're interested in Suriname. They're interested in Guyana because of the oil and gas. But the oil and gas had put us on the map, and the world is now interested. If you can arrange airline companies to fly to Suriname, Suriname territory can function as a hub where your airline can come from the African nation and from there going to the South American nation, to the North American nation, to Canada. It's very strategic.
The importance of the creative industry was showcased through a host of discussions.
Well, the first thing is to realize that we are all one, right? That we are in this together, whether it's Nollywood, Bollywood, Hollywood, and to create that bridge and make that connection seamlessly and continuously. Reach out, ask for help. Let's have solution-based dialogue around creating content together, because you can't do it in a silo. If you do it in a silo and you don't distribute your content outwards.
We should have gone further by now, but we haven't because of financial constraints. And so they need to have that at the back of their mind and just be open-minded. And we as creatives would try to do our possible best to make the best content, because if the product is good, and then the business will automatically excel, and it's a win-win on both sides.
Bringing the 3-day meetings to a close with musical flair was multiple Grammy Award-winning musician and producer Wyclef Jean, who says African and Caribbean talent must be highlighted now.
I said for us to move forward, we have to recognize Africa as a superpower. This merge of the Caribbean is pretty amazing, right? Because a lot of time we talk about we talk about investment, and we talk about these big ideas that we have, and every time we go to people, we can't find people to fund us, right, within the Caribbean. And then so this is an idea where our big brother and our big sister has come back to us, and they said, we are not going to let y'all fall. We are going to create a route for generational wealth for the youth. So it's very exciting.
Over the course of 3 days, Afreximbank, true to its mission, has financed, facilitated and focused on joining African and Caribbean people, business and governments in unions meant for their true prosperity.
Indeed, the 31st Afreximbank annual meeting has secured its place in history by doing exactly what it set out to do from the very beginning, which is owning our destiny, securing our prosperity on the platform of a global Africa.